Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Brian, and in today's video, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Part of what I do for my actual job is I manage and maintain a cloud environment using a service called Skytap. It is a phenomenal service for the different things that we need it to do, but there are a few things that I'm not able to do within their tooling that I wish I could do. And not being a developer by trade, I have a very difficult time creating applications to do things like this. And so with this whole phenomenon of vibe coding, I've been using all the different tools that are out there like Bolt.new and Lovable. I've recently started using Cursor AI as well. This particular set of tools that I've actually developed using Cursor. And I'm not just putting random prompts in and asking it to do something. I'm being very specific about what I need it to look like, what APIs I need to leverage from Skytap's APIs, what types of credentials need to be being passed in, etc. So it's taking quite a bit of collaborative back and forth with the agent in Cursor AI, but I'm going to show you in this video that I've been able to create some really useful tools. So in my place of employ, we utilize the Skytap cloud environment to provision instances for things like sales demos or training sessions. And as one of the administrators of this Skytap environment, there are several features and functions that I wish I had at my disposal for some of the common tasks that I have to do over and over and over again, especially ones that require lots of steps per environment. One of those examples would be spinning up a training event. Now, I know that there is a training module that provides some of these capabilities. We do not happen to have that module. So I have gone ahead and leveraged the Skytap APIs and developed a front-end tool that allows me to do some of these tasks. So in this video, I want to walk through some of the tools that I've created to help make some of these manual processes a little bit more automated. Okay, so the first use case is going to be that I have a set of projects in Skytap. You can see I have projects here, and one of them is called Training Event 2025. And you'll see that I have a master VM here, a master environment. This is going to be the image that the instructor for the event will use. But they've requested that I provision 10 copies of this, one for each of their 10 attendees. So today, the way you would normally do this is you would either use a template and deploy a new environment from that template times 10, or you could come into the environment itself and you could choose to copy this environment times 10. What I chose to do, however, is I chose to develop a tool that is leveraging the APIs to do this for me under the covers. And so the other piece of this is that each of the students, what they end up getting as part of their package for the class is a sharing portal URL that is specific to their VM on Skytap. And so part of the toolkit that I've created here, you'll see, gives me the ability to easily get a list of all the sharing portals for the event as well. So we're going to start here with the master VM. And like I said, I have a project here called Training 2025. So if I go ahead and drill into my project, that's going to be the first piece of information that I need. So I'm going to come over to Skytap Tools, and I'm going to go underneath Copy Environment and select Get Started. So the first thing it's going to ask me for is my project ID. So I'm going to come over to Skytap, and up in the URL here, I'm going to copy out my project ID and just paste that in the project ID field. Then it's going to ask me for the master environment ID. So if I go into the master environment up in the URL and I take that master environment ID and paste that in here, I then need to give it how many copies I want. So in this case, I'll say 10. And then the name prefix is going to be what I want to call this. So I'll call this my class, for example. And what it will do is it'll prefix all of the new environments with this name. And it will also go ahead and add them to this particular project. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Copies. And it will take a minute or two to create all of these copies. But when it's done, it's going to come back and give us an update of all of the things that it completed. And in this app, I've also built in a 10-second buffer in between each copy to help avoid any rate limiting issues within Skytap. And you'll see that the copy process has completed. See the results below. And we can see that we have all of the different copies that have been made, what they've been renamed to, and that they've been added to that project. So now if I come back over to Skytap and I go back to my project, you're going to see all of these environments now are in my project. Now, one of the other things that I like to do for our training events is I like to create schedulers to start them up and suspend them in an automated fashion every day that the class is taking place. So by default, when you provision an environment in Skytap, you'll notice that the auto shutdown is set to on, at least the way we have our environment configured. And if you come underneath here, there's a default setting of 2 hours. So basically this is saying after 2 hours of this VM running, if it's not accessed directly from the Skytap portal, it's going to put that VM in a suspend state. Well, I don't want it suspending on customers in the middle of a class. So what I typically do is I disable these power options for each environment. So I've created an option to do that, which we're going to get to in a minute. And so if we come over to the create schedulers, you're going to see that there's just a simple form here to fill out. Now, before I do that, if I come over to schedules in Skytap, you're going to see that I don't have any schedules currently. So what we're going to do now is use this tool to create schedules for all of those instances that it just created. So I'm going to go ahead and just say my class. We'll do Eastern time. We'll say the start date is the 28th of April. Start time is going to be, let's say 9 a.m. End date will be May 2nd. End time will be 12 p.m. And then how many hours a day do I want the VM to run? So in this case, I'm going to just say these are 4-hour class days. So we're just going to put in 4 hours. And again, we need to put our project ID in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say what days of the week do we want this scheduler to recur on. And so it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then we just go ahead and click Create Schedulers. And this is going to go out and use the Schedulers API to create the schedulers, but it's also using the API of looking up the project to find out what configuration IDs or environment IDs exist under that project. And you'll see now that it has created 11 schedulers for these 11 configurations, and it's showing you the name of the configurations that it's created them for. So if we come back over to Skytap and refresh our schedules view, and you'll see that we have 11 schedulers here. And you'll notice that the first one starts at 9 a.m. like we put in our form. The second one is 9:10. The third one is 9:20. What I've done is I've put in a 10-minute buffer window to also avoid rate limiting actions. So when you're starting up environments or suspending them, those use more compute resources than other functions on Skytap. And so there's a certain number of those types of tasks that you can do simultaneously. So I build in this 10-minute buffer to make sure that I'm not going to hit that by starting these environments up or suspending them. And you'll see that the last one starts up at 10:40 a.m. And so if we go into one of these schedules and take a look, you'll see that this is related to the student VM master environment. It's going to start on the 28th at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are all the checkboxes we checked on the form. And then you're going to see that the actions it's performing is to run the environment. And then after 4 hours, it's going to suspend the environment. So now that I've created the schedulers, the other thing I mentioned I need to do is disable the power or auto shutdown options for each of those environments within that project. So if we come back up and use the power options tool, this gives me the ability to do this based on a project or by an environment ID. And so if I go ahead and paste in my project ID here, for example, and click check status, this is going to go out and look to see what the current status is. And you'll see right now, all of these are coming up as red. And the reason they're red is because for me, visually, red means that I need to take action on this. Green would mean that it's okay. And you can see right now, all of these VMs have a status of after 2 hours of idle time, it's going to suspend. It's also telling me what the current status of the VM itself is, which in this case, all of them are suspended. So again, at a project level, I can disable auto shutdown for all environments, or I could go under the by environment ID and do it one environment at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and just say disable auto shutdown here. And this is going to go out and basically reset all of the auto shutdown properties for all of these environments using the APIs. And you'll see now all of those environments are coming back, and they're coming back as the color green, and the status is now auto shutdown disabled. So if we come back over to our project and we go into one of the environments, we'll see that the auto shutdown is now off, and you'll also see that there is a scheduler associated with that particular machine. So now that all of the instances have been created and all of the power options have been set to disable the auto shutdown, and we've created schedulers that stagger the startup and suspend of each of the environments, the last thing I need to do is have an easy way to provide the trainer with a list of all of the environments and the sharing portal URLs to give one to each of the students. So if we come over to the tools again and we go to look up URLs, and then we just paste in our project ID and click look up URLs, this is going to return back a list of the configuration name as well as the desktop URL. And you can easily click copy all URLs and then paste that into an email, for example, or you can download it as a CSV file. And then one other miscellaneous tool that I've created is a tool that solves a problem that I haven't been able to figure out how to solve within the Skytap UI itself. And that is basically if you have hundreds of projects, users may have come and gone and deleted their environments, and there's basically just empty projects sitting out there, but you don't know that they're empty. There's no real good way that I've found of doing any type of a search or sort based on projects that have no environments in them. So you'll see here, for example, this is just a small example, but I have 3 projects that have 0 environments in them. And then I have the training event one that we just created 11 instances in. So what I want to do is I wanted to have a tool that will give me all of my empty environments so that I know that I can go ahead and delete those. So if we go back over to my Skytap tools and go on Project Cleaner and click Find Empty Projects, this is going to look under our account for any projects that are empty. And you'll see that we have 3 empty projects. So I can either choose to single select, or I can select all, and then I can delete the selected, or I can delete all empty projects. So let's go ahead and just delete this cross-team dev instances project, for example. And you'll see that it deleted it and it removed it from this list. If I now come back to my project list, you'll see that that particular project is gone. So I have these 2 left here. So I'm just going to say delete all empty projects. And if I come back and refresh my project list, boom. The only project I have left is the training event one with the 11 environments in it.